Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Speak On. I am your boy, R.W. Coolins. First and foremost, giving honor to the guy who allows me to come at you in this manner on a weekly basis. Good morning, good morning, good morning. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. That's what we do here every Saturday morning here on Speak On the Show. Let's get these formalities out of the way. rwcoolins.com. That's the website. You can go there. Also, RW Coolins over all social media platforms. Go there, share, like, subscribe. Do what you do with all the other places you may watch. Get your information on YouTube, Facebook. We're broadcasting live on YouTube and Facebook this morning. Make sure you share and get other people involved in what we do here on the Speak On the Show. 844-904-2665. That's 844-904-2665. No matter what the situation is, let your voice be heard. All we ask is say what you mean what you say. We come in as friends, we leave as family. That's what we do here on the Speak On the Show. James Battle, good morning. Good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate your support. Appreciate your support. It's a straight talk, no chaser Saturday, y'all. Straight talk, no chaser. And the main conversation we're going to have today is dealing with the senseless killing by police officers of Tyre Nichols. Now, I want to start this off with this. Well, let me start with this here. Phone lines are open. April Wheaton, good morning. Good morning, sis. Appreciate you. Phone lines are going to be open all morning. So if you got a comment, you got something you want to get off your chest about what went on with this whole situation, feel free to call in 844-904-2665. Let me start off with this. I haven't watched the video. I refuse to watch the video. And I know there's a lot of people out there that say, well, in order to report on it, you need to see the video, and I can't bring myself to watch the video for the simple fact of, as everyone remembers, back when George Floyd happened, I was not okay after I seen that video. I don't want to put myself through that same mental mindset of after watching that video or watching that video that I did with George Floyd. That's just me. You do what you do. I do what I do. But I'm going to give you some information that you probably haven't heard about. Brian Hoodie, good morning, man. Appreciate you the support. But as I said, the video, from what I've heard, because when it came on in the news, I flipped the channels, then I go back to see what's going on, what's happening, what they're talking about, the discussions that are going on, and all these different things that go around this situation. Jacqueline Diggs Barnett, good morning, classmate. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. But from what I've been told and from what I've seen people talk about, the video is not something you really want to watch. It's amazing to me how, and I guess we're programmed this way. Let me just start with this. We're programmed to, in a certain way, that we may know all the facts or have heard everything that happened in a situation. But for some reason, we have to see it exactly how it happened. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. For some of y'all, do what you do. But to hear all the people in anticipation of when they were going to release the video so they could watch the video, for me, and I'm just going to speak for me right now, just knowing what they did to this young man, the damage, the injuries, the killing, the murder of this young man, I didn't need to see the video. Because I think sometimes when we watch the video, it just draws us more anger. It makes us angrier towards the situation. And it causes us not maybe to think clearly. Just me, just an observation, just something I want to put out there. But let me start with this. This is Tyre Nichols. Terrence Collins, good morning, my brother. Appreciate you. This young man here, with a smile on his face, is Mr. Tyre Nichols. And let me tell you why I put this up here this morning. I put this up here because the images we know of Tyre Nichols, for those that have watched the video, is completely different than what you're seeing on this screen here. In the video, you're probably seeing him struggle, scream, Supposedly, they say he yelled for his mother in the video, so on and so forth. The anguish on his face, I'm sure you've seen in the video. All the things you can think about of someone being in distress and not knowing what's going on is what you've seen in the video. Jerry L. Page, good morning, my brother. But this is the image I want you to know and I want to show about Tyre Nichols. And the reason I want to show this image before we get into this is because this is a human being. Not as they call someone that was beaten by 5 police officers as like he was a human pinata. Not someone that other people vision and see as just a black man who deserved what he got. Not a black man who they say should have just complied. That's not what I want you to see. That's not what I want you to see. I want you to see this young man in the vision of who he was to the people who knew him, who he was to his parents, his family, his child, all the above. That's why I want to start out with this morning. Edward Allen, good morning, little brother. Mentally tired and discussing about this already. When is this going to stop? Now, let me give you some details about who Tyre Nichols is, because I don't think the details of who he is have been put out there. 29 years old, 6'3", slim, 140, 145 pounds. Suffered from Crohn's disease. Youngest of 4 children. Loved being a father to his son. And this is what his mother said about him. His mother's name is Rovon Wells. And she said he was a good boy who spent his Sundays doing laundry and getting ready for the week. Does that sound like somebody the police said did all those bad things? Nobody's perfect, okay. But he was damn near. Nobody's perfect, okay. But he was damn near. This is his mother speaking about her child. Her young black boy that these officers chose, what the key word, chose to beat senselessly to death. Now, people say, well, he died a couple of days later after he got to the hospital. He was dead before they took him to the hospital. Let's just be honest. He was dead before he went to the hospital. He may have been breathing. He may have been functioning to a certain extent, but he was dead before he got to the hospital. He worked as a shift on the second shift at FedEx, and he enjoyed photography and skateboarding. He was an avid skateboarder, loved skateboarding. He started when he was 6 years old. See, these are things we don't hear about the people that die at the hands of police officers. We don't hear the good things about them. All we hear, and I'm going to go back a little bit, but all we heard about anyone before Tyre Nichols and Tyre Nichols was all the things that the people thought he personified as a black man. What drugs were in his system? What did he do to cause his own demise? Why didn't he just comply? You see the routine, you see the normal process of what we go through and what we hear about people that look like me and us, for those listening, that it gets to a point where we know and can predict what the statements will say when they come out when something like this happens. His mother even mentioned that every day he would go to watch the sunset. Think about that for a minute. Every day he went to a certain place to watch the sunset. And now the sun has set on his life because of 5 individuals who could give a damn. And I say 5. But from what I heard about the video, there was other people that were standing around that watched after they did what they did. Nobody rendered any help or anything like that. But we concentrate on the 5 because they were the initial. but there will be other charges brought against some of the other people who were there who did not render help to this young man. Remember this image. Please remember this image. Not the image of him being beat to death. Remember this image. Now let me get into how the Nichols family found out about the violent encounter, because they really haven't touched on this as well, and what his mother said. Officers with the Memphis Police Department went to the home of Rovon Wells, Tyre Nichols' mom, between 8 and 9 p.m. on January 7th to tell her about Nichols' arrest, his mother told Don Lemon on Friday. Officers told Mrs. Wells her son was arrested for a DUI, pepper sprayed, and tased. Let me read that one more time. Officers told his mother that her son was arrested for a DUI, pepper sprayed, and tased. Because of that, they said he was going to the hospital and would later be taken to booking at the police station. This is what she told Don Lemon that the officers told her. Jerry L. Page, watching the sunset is a spiritual view of what to come. Amen. Amen. But they lied. They said he was arrested for a DUI, pepper sprayed, and tased. That's all they told the mother. They then asked her, she said, they asked me, was he on any type of drugs or anything of that nature? Because they were saying it was so difficult to put the handcuffs on him, and he had this amount of energy, superhuman energy, she said. See, that fits that stereotype that we got some kind of gene in us that when we get upset, we just turn into a raging animal. Let me go back again. Tyre Nichols was 6'4", 6'3", 140 to 145 pounds. These were 5, and y'all seen the pictures just like I had, bulky police officers. They were apprehending him, and they said he had superhuman energy when they were trying to arrest him. And they asked his mother if he was on some type of drug. Officer said she couldn't go to the hospital. And when asked where her son was, they said he was nearby, but wouldn't tell her exactly where. And now she says, now that I'm actually putting things together, I believe they were trying to cover it up when they first came to my door. Around 4 a.m. Eastern, Mrs. Wells said a doctor called to summon her to the hospital to see her son. Now, the police officers came between 8 and 9 p.m. The hospital doctor called to summon her to the hospital around 4 a.m. The doctor proceeded to tell me that my son had went into cardiac arrest and that his kidneys were failing. This doesn't sound consistent to somebody being tased or pepper sprayed, as the police had told her. When my husband and I got to the hospital and I saw my son, he was already gone. When my husband and I got to the hospital, my son was already gone. They had beat him to a pulp. Wells described the horrific injuries her son had when she saw him in the hospital. This is what she said. He had bruises all over him. His head was swollen like a watermelon. His neck was busting because of the swelling. They broke his neck. My son's nose looked like an S. They actually just beat the crap out of him. And so when I saw that, I knew my son was gone. The end. Even if he even if he did live, he would have been a vegetable. See, that's what you didn't see on the video that you chose to watch. That's what we didn't hear about his condition in the hospital. They went from a beating to he died. They went to release the video, but none of this. This is from his mother. Reggie Biro, sad, just sad. Yeah, very sad. Sad state of affairs. Jay's battle. In the report, they said reckless driving. They obviously forgot that where they were wearing cameras. Here's the other thing about that. I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks, James Battle. They said reckless driving. And initially they said they didn't know why or what he was pulled over for. They went to the mother's house right after the incident between 8 and 9 o'clock and said that he was pulled over for a DUI, not reckless driving, a DUI. So all these stories aren't adding up to what they said that this young man did or supposedly had done. Mark Cheeks, good morning, my brother. Appreciate you. I'm giving you all this information, and some of you may have heard it, some of you may not have heard it. But I'm giving you all this information because you can come to a conclusion, at least I did, of what that video showed by what I've just read. The graphic nature of how his mother chose to explain the condition of her son told me everything I needed to know about the beating that he took before he got to the hospital. And remember, his mother didn't see him until after 4 a.m. The cops team came to her house between 8 and 9 p.m. Judge Collins, I refuse to watch the video. It won't change the outcome. Another senseless killing, murder at the hands of officers with no regard for life. Disgusting. Amen. And this is something that, we ask, when will it stop? As Edward Allen asked, when is this going to stop? When I mentioned this last week, it was just starting to become newsworthy to the point it is now. And last week, I mentioned that these were 5 African-American Black police officers that did this to a young African-American Black male. During the time that they decided to impose their will and beat this man to death, the first thing comes to my mind is, did any of them stop to think that that could have been them, their son or daughter, their nephew or niece, anyone in their own bloodlines? Did they ever stop to think what they were doing could have been someone they know, someone family, I understand. Well, no, I'm not even going to say I understand. I don't understand how you can be that angry to continually beat someone to the condition that his mom described him laying in that hospital. And then I heard this on a news report saying that, I guess, while they were standing around on the cameras, they were smiling and they were laughing and they were, like trying to come up with a story and all these type things. And it just causes you to pause for a minute and ask yourself, what is going on in these 5 men's lives to get them to a point that they were okay? Let me say it this way, that they were okay with treating not only a human being, but someone who looked like them in that manner. I don't know. I we talk about these things over and over and over again. We see them happen. We can go all the way back to Rodney King. We can go to, just recently George Floyd, Eric Garner. There's a list, Sandra Bland, that we really, really have forgotten about with the Sandra Bland case because it doesn't come up as much, only in incidents like this, because there still is no closure to her case. But we can look back over all these things that happen. And most of the time what we do, and I'm going to talk to my people here because sometimes we get caught up in this. We get so caught up in the fact that it was a white officer doing it to a African American male or female and everything, that we lose focus of the sense of this is not just a black and white issue, it's a systemic issue that we always talk about. This is something embedded in the system, that some of these people feel empowered enough to do these things because there's no accountability for when they do it, because they all have the story that they come up with to cover themselves. There's always something. Maurice Wigfall, good morning, my brother. Appreciate you. Yes, indeed, very sad. Terrence Collins, however, I will watch when all guilty parties are sentenced and justice is served, hopefully giving the family some sense of closure. Exactly. Oh, I will be watching the trial. You can count on that, because I got some information I'm gonna pass on to you right now on the defense of these officers that is coming out. Let me start with this. Let's swing for a minute. Let's go away from Mr. Nichols, his family, his well-being, all those things we can think about. Let's get into the police officers and their defense. The lawyers for these officers, one of them. A defense attorney for one of the Memphis cops charged with fatally beating Tyre Nichols said no one intended for him to die. A defense attorney for one of the Memphis cops charged with fatally beating Tyre Nichols said no one intended for him to die. The Nichols family isn't buying that argument. Let me stop right there for a minute. There's video, there's conversation, there's the damage that was done to this young man's body. And this defense attorney has and I'm going to use the word audacity, to say that no one intended for Tyre Nichols to die. So they're going with the intent. They had no intent of it getting to this point. I'm sorry, y'all. No one intended. What did they expect to happen when you beat a person that long, that bad, with that many people? What did they think they were going to do? Put a scratch on him? Scare him? The intent was to impose their will on that young man to the point that if he ever had an opportunity to say anything about them, that he would say, they whooped my ass. That's what lawyers do. I was just getting ready to go there. Thank you, my brother. That's what lawyers do. They get paid to defend. I understand that. They get paid to instill doubt in what the intent was of these officers. James Battle, they didn't intend for him to live either. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. But I don't think, and I'll say this part, when they seen that young man laying there after they did whatever they chose to do, that's when reality kicked in. And it wasn't the reality of his injuries or whether he would die or what they did. What it was the reality of, oh shit, the cameras are on. And even then, they didn't care. They didn't care. Gerald Page, it has happened so many times in the past that they didn't give any thought to it. No. And like I said last week, they beat him someone said they beat him like a human pinata. A human pinata. Sonia Davis, I think all of us with sons, cousins, brothers, etc., are mortified after seeing this. And we should be. Good morning, by the way. And we should be. Because we've seen this too many times. You know, we're going to go into this mode where we worry about our sons, daughters, and cousins and brothers and, nieces, nephews, and everybody whenever they leave a home or they go out somewhere, we're back in that mindset again. It kind of waned off a little bit. We worry, but not to the worry of what we're going to have right now, just like we worried when the George Floyd incident happened, or the George Floyd murder, as I like to say. We're going to be concerned, but we can't stop living. We just have to be aware of our surroundings and aware of what's going on. Protect and to serve. Protect and to serve. Take it for what it's worth. Memphis police officers Demetrius Haley, these are the names, Demetrius Haley, Tadarius Dean, Justin Smith, Emmett Martin, and Desmond Mills Jr. are now facing murder charges. A defense attorney for one of the 5 fired Memphis, Tennessee police officers charged in the beating death of Tyre Nichols said the cops never intended for the young black motorist to die. William Massey, an attorney for Emmett Martin III, told reporters on Thursday, shortly after Martin and 4 other Memphis Police Department officers were indicted on second-degree murder charges, that no one out there that night intended for Tyre Nichols to die. No one. No one. I would just imagine police officers have a very difficult and dangerous job, and sometimes a thankless job. And it's probably one of their worst fears that something like this would happen on their watch. This is what Attorney Massey said. This is what lawyers do. Attorney Blake Ballin, who was representing Desmond Mills Jr. in the case, said his client was devastated by the charges, and to be accused of something like this hurts him on another level. To be accused of something like this hurts him on another level. But none of the blows that they put on this young man hurt them enough to stop. Nothing they did to this young man made them think that what they're doing is wrong. Maybe we need to stop. He could not be more upset about this entire situation. Again, somebody who has dedicated his life to protecting society, to protecting the community, to be accused of being involved in the death of another is devastating to him. The defense lawyer said they have not yet seen police body camera footage of Nichols' arrest, which is set to be released to the public on Friday evening. So this was before the video was released. Mills' attorney cautioned the public to reserve judgment once the footage is released. So Dave's intent or not didn't change the outcome. How do you defend that? They're getting paid and they're going to do the best they can. They're going to put all kinds of doubt, as much doubt as they possibly can, into who Tyre Nichols is, which is why I started the show off, to let everybody know what I know and what I've read from the family about Tyre Nichols. Because there's going to be a lot. And I'm going to get into one of them. You know, there's always that one out there. Mills' attorney cautioned the public to reserve judgment once the footage is released. And this is what he said: know that there is always more to the story. We will do our own investigation. We will gather information from the state that's not available to the public. And when it's time to defend our client, our side of things will come out. Ballin described his client Mills as a gentle, respectful father and a family man. He is a gentle, respectful father and a family man. Where was the gentle, respectful father and family man during that beating? Don't tell me that this person is this, and this, when everyone in America who decided to watch their video sees something completely different. A gentle, respectful father and a family man. Yeah, we all can have someone identifies that way. But we all have certain times where our temper can go from 0 to 60. And at that time, you're not still a gentle, respectful father or a family man. You're a murderer. You're a murderer. Cut and dry. You murdered this young man. So miss me with that. James Battle, if they didn't intend for him to die, why didn't at least one of them do something to ensure he didn't die? They didn't do that. They didn't do it. The EMTs that show up didn't do it. There's a whole lot of people that are going to be blamed and be accountable for what they did. And let's just go from the beginning. If they did not intend for him to die, then tell me why you pulled him over and it escalated to death. I don't want to hear from the lawyers. I want to hear from the officers. See, if we can get to that point, I guarantee a lot of people, if we could get the officers that are involved in situations like this to sit up on that stand and testify to what they did and what their intent was, I guarantee a lot of this stuff would probably change. Maybe not 100%. It'll change a little bit. It'll change a little bit, in my opinion. Mark Cheek speaks. They are setting the table. Yes, they are setting the table. And he also said this. He has put on a strong facade, but I know underneath it all, this is causing his family a lot of anxiety and a lot of pain. Not only for his own situation, but for what this kind of accusation, this kind of incident is doing to our city, said Mr. Baldwin. Defense lawyers for Martin and Mills said they each intend to plead not guilty in the case. All 5 former officers who have been charged posted their bonds of either $350,000 or $250,000 and were released from jail as of Friday afternoon, records show. Setting the table. He has put on a strong facade, but I know underneath it all, this is causing his family a lot of anxiety and a lot of pain. What about Mr. Nichols' family? What about the pain they're dealing with? The lawyers are setting the table. And then they went in depth to talk about this unit that these people were assigned to. The Scorpion Unit is what these 5 officers were assigned to. And it stands for Street Crimes Operation to Restore Peace in Our Neighborhoods. And it was created by the police chief, Sarah Davis, that you've seen on the news, in October 2021 to stop crime in neighborhoods plagued with violence. It consisted of 4 teams tasked with patrolling high crime hotspots throughout the Memphis area, according to the website. According to the City of Memphis website, the unit was created to address violent crimes, including homicides, aggravated assaults, robberies, and carjackings. Let me start again. Homicides, aggravated assaults, robberies, and carjacking. They said they pulled Mr. Nichols over for reckless driving. Then they said he pulled him over because of DUI. None of these things that this Scorpion Unit is supposed to be tasked with doing have they accused Mr. Nichols of doing. Homicide, aggravated assault, robberies, and carjacking. Lawyers for the Nichols family have called on city officials to disband the unit. Davis said other officers are still being investigated for violating department policy. In addition, she said a complete and independent review will be conducted of the department's specialized units without providing further details on Friday. On Friday, Memphis Mayor James Strickland said the unit is currently inactive due to the ongoing investigation into Nichols' death. Scorpion Unit. Street Crimes Operation to Restore Peace in Our Neighborhoods. Now, I don't know who sat down and came up with Scorpion to put all that together, but let's just call it this. They were in a unit called the Scorpion Unit. But I guarantee there was 4 different units within this, 4 teams within this. So if there was 5 of those, that means there was 20 total. 4 teams, 5 people each. I'm just putting numbers out there. But you can't tell me this was the only rogue unit. I guarantee, and I'll put some, I don't gamble. I'm not a gambling man, but I will put something out there like this. There's going to be other people that come forward and say what these teams have done that are outside of what they're supposed to do, but it just didn't get to the point of someone dying. Pay attention to Memphis for a while. Pay attention to Memphis for a while. Not just because of this, but because of everything going on down there. Scorpion Unit has been disbanded. Has been disbanded as of now. Or, operations have stopped in that area. So as I was perusing the internet, just to see people's opinions, and I was on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, CNN, MSN, all the different Fox News, just to see what the conversation was about the video. Jason Whitlock. I don't know if a lot of y'all know who Jason Whitlock was, but Jason Whitlock used to be a reporter, sports reporter on ESPN. Then he went over to Fox, and then he was on He was on all these different FS1, different places, and now he's on, I don't know what channel he's on, but I just happened to see Blaze or something. But it was on Tucker Carlson. And they were talking about this incident in Memphis. And Jason Whitlock says Tyre Nichols died. I want y'all to hear this clearly now. Jason Whitlock says that Tyre Nichols died because officers were supervised by a single Black woman. Let that process for a minute. Now, mind you, if you don't know who Jason Whitlock is a African-American male, Black man. That totally goes against anything that we do as a people to fit in wherever he wants to fit in. I don't know him. I just know his opinions that I've seen at time to time and extreme. But he said Tyre Nichols died because officers were supervised by a single Black woman. He was talking about Chief of Police, his name is Sari Daniels? I'm sorry. Saralene Davis. Let me get it right. So this is what he said. Jason Whitlock said the 5 officers accused of murdering Tyre Nichols did not know how to act because the police chief is a single Black woman. As dubious as this idea is, it is also not true. Let me just read exactly what he said. Appearing on Tucker Carlson tonight, shortly after the video release, Jason Whitlock blamed the mere identity of the Memphis police chief for the incident. And he said there is a racial element. And this is a story about young Black men and their inability to treat each other in a humane way. Everybody involved in this on the street level was either 24 to 32 years old. Everybody. It was a group of young Black men, 5-on-1. Looked like gang violence to me. It looked like what young Black men do when they're supervised by a single Black woman. And that's what they got going on in the Memphis Police Department. They've elected some or put some Black woman in charge of the police force, and we are getting the same kind of chaos and disunity and violence that we see in a lot of these cities run by single mothers. If we want to discuss the breakdown of family that leads to disrespect for authority, that causes you to resist the police and run from the police and not comply with the police because you resist authority at all times because there was no male authority in your home, let's have that discussion. Aside from the wrongness of blaming Nichols' death on the police chief's status as a single Black woman, Chief Saralene Davis, is actually married to a retired law enforcement officer and has 1 daughter, according to her bio. Davis has served in the role since 2021 after a stint as police chief in Durham, North Carolina, and as deputy chief in Atlanta. And then Tucker Carlson said this to him. After he put out this wrong information, Tucker Carlson said to Jason Whitlock, "You've been on this show so many times," Carlson told Whitlock, "and every single time you say something I never would have thought of, including what you just said. And I appreciate it." Let me unpack this for you. Jason Whitlock, a Black man, goes on Fox News and says the reason that these 5 officers and Tyre Nichols were out there like it was a gang violent thing was because the chief of police put a single mother in the position of chief and they have no father figure to guide them in the right way. I'm sorry for laughing. To guide them in the right way on how to do their job. That's why this incident happened. What? These are the type of things that we hear come from people who look like Tyre Nichols. These are the type of things that we hear try to justify what these police officers did and saying it because of they're being led by a woman who is a single woman in a single parent household, who is actually married, who actually has the merit to do the job, who was put in the position because she has the qualifications. You never hear any white officers that do things like this being accused or being put in this stereotype of they did this because there was no father in the home. You never hear these stereotypes put on them or any other nationality except African Americans when things like this happen. And most of the time, the proprietors of this stereotype are the ones that look like us. Jason Whitlock, Candace Owens are the first two to come to mind. She even had a comment. I didn't want to overwhelm y'all with ignorance today, so I left her out of this. But this one here, how does he still have a job? Because he panders to those people with that mentality. For Tucker Carlson to say, you come on my show a lot and you give me things to really think about, and I appreciate you for that. But he came on there and lied on a national news network. They lied on this chief of police in Memphis. Not because she's not doing her job, not because she doesn't know how to do a job, but they put her in the role of being someone's mother to these 5 police officers. And that's the reason they acted out why they acted out, because her being a single mother or a single woman, as he said, is totally false. But there's people that watch this on Fox News. And because he's a black man on Fox News saying this about a black woman, they take it as truth. They take it as truth. But people like me and the listeners that listen to this show know for a fact that Jason Whitlock is full of doo-doo. I can't say the word I want to say. My mama might be listening. I'm sorry. Jason Whitlock will say anything to feel accepted by the Fox News crowd. He would take money all day pandering to racists. That's because I'm not, y'all know I don't get into that. He is we sick boss, we hurting boss, we going to take care of them boss. That's what's wrong with him. He's in yeah, y'all know I don't use the disparaging terms, so y'all feel free. Y'all feel free. I just don't use it because my thing is I try not to put it in that text, but I don't agree with Jason Whitlock. I don't agree with his assumption. And for him to say that because she's a single woman in that position, that these 5 black officers had no guidance? Really? So do they say that about the white officers under a white single female that may be a chief of police? Do they say that about her and the officers that do these type things? Never once did you hear this about Derek Chauvin when he murdered George Floyd. Never once did you hear this about the officer that jumped on Sandra Bland for smoking a cigarette and he told her to put it out. Never once did you hear this about what happened with Trayvon Martin and so on and so on and so on. Why does this stereotype have to play a part in why Tyree Nichols died? I don't understand. But it's par for the course for Jason Whitlock. Let's just be honest about that. So then I did a little bit more research. And I found this Fraternal Order of Police, FOP. I have seen no statements on the news or them sitting and being interviewed about how they feel about what happened in Memphis. Because, the Fraternal Order of Police is like their union. Let's just be honest. It's like their union. And they always have a comment about something. I'm going to go down through a couple of things here of what they've said up to this point. And then I'm going to tell you what exactly they said about what happened in Memphis. Back in 2020, 28 May of 2020, this was the statement of the Fraternal Order of Police from National President Patrick Yoes on the tragic death of George Floyd. And I'm using this just to let y'all understand how the Fraternal Order of Police works. He said, our thoughts and prayers today are with the friends and family of Mr. George Floyd, whose tragic death this week shocked and horrified our nation. Law enforcement officers are empowered to use force when apprehending suspects, and they are rigorously trained to do so in order to have the safest possible outcome for all parties. Based on the bystanders video from this incident, we witnessed a man in distress pleading for help. The fact that he was a suspect in custody is immaterial. Police officers should at all times render aid to those who need it. Police officers need to treat all our citizens with respect and understanding and should be held to very high standards for their conduct. The FOP has full confidence in our criminal justice system. This incident is being investigated by multiple law enforcement agencies. The officers are reportedly cooperating with investigators, and we must ensure that justice is served, whatever the consequences. I do not believe this incident should be allowed to define our profession or the Minneapolis Police Department, but there is no doubt that this incident has diminished the trust and respect our communities have for the men and women of law enforcement. Fraternal Order of Police is the largest law enforcement labor organization in the United States with more than 351,000 members. This was the statement they put out back on 28 May of 2020. This is the statement they put out 27 January, which was yesterday of 2023. Fraternal Order of Police National President infuriated by description of assault by Memphis officers. Patrick Yoes, National President of Fraternal Order of Police, was appalled by the brutal assault of Tyre Nichols. The event is described to us does not constitute legitimate police work or a traffic stop gone wrong. This is a criminal assault under the pretext of law. The Memphis Police Department terminated the 5 officers who participated in this heinous act. The district attorney and the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation have completed the investigation, arrested the former officers, and charged them with second-degree murder. Tyre Nichols allegedly fled from officers following the traffic stop after a brief foot pursuit. 5 Memphis police officers caught up to Mr. Nichols and beat him so badly he had to be hospitalized. A few days later, he died of those injuries. Much as in the George Floyd murder case, most, if not all, of the crime will be seen when the video is released later today. According to reports, the fact that none of those officers, none of them, acted to stop this vicious attack only compounds my horror. It is sickening. The men arrested and charged for this crime have rights, the presumption of innocence, and the due process protections of anyone accused of a crime. But the bottom line here is that Tyre Nichols, his family, and our entire country need to see justice done swiftly and surely. This criminal encounter should not and does not define the brave men and women of the Memphis Police Department of more than 800 officers, and so on and so on and so on. See the different verbiage? Now, I'm not going to say outright that the way that the police officers, Fraternal Order of the Police, viewed the George Floyd incident compared to Tyre Nichols is black and white. I'm not going to say that's black and white, because see, here's the thing. He went into detail with George Floyd's incident and saying that it was on video, shouldn't have happened. Officers are participating, officers are reportedly cooperating with the investigators and everything like that. We seen George Floyd murdered on TV, on the video, right? But then in this case, he's appalled by the brutal assault of Tyre Nichols, but he hadn't seen the video yet. He hadn't seen the video yet, but he was appalled that these 5 black officers attacked this one black male. But Derek Chauvin, who stood on the neck of George Floyd and killed him on the street there, he never mentioned anything about being appalled. He just mentioned on how they're supposed to apprehend suspects and so on and so forth and all these. I'm not trying to do a comparison here, but I'm trying to get you to understand that the Fraternal Order of Police is to protect the police. It's to protect the police going forward from this incident. Then he made a statement back in 2021, Fraternal Order of Police, 3 March 2021, about the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, and he's against it. You know, you hear him talking about now they need to pass the George Floyd Policing Act and everything. The Fraternal Order of Police is against it. And why are they against it? They're against it because it goes down and it boils down to something they call qualified immunity. They don't want the George Floyd Policing Act to go into play. And this is back in 2021, because cops like these 5, like Derek Chauvin, like all these other ones, qualified immunity would allow people to sue the police department or the police officers individually, as well as the police department. So they don't want this in there. They want to take qualified immunity out. They will pass. That's their biggest thing. And for y'all that don't know about qualified immunity, we've talked about on this before. Qualified immunity is a type of legal immunity. Qualified immunity balances 2 important interests: the need to hold public officials accountable when they exercise power irresponsibly, and the need to shield officials from harassment, distraction, and liability when they perform their duties reasonably. Specifically, qualified immunity protects a government official from lawsuits alleging that the official violated a plaintiff's rights only allowing suits where officials violated a clearly established statutory or constitutional right. When determining whether a right was clearly established, courts consider whether a hypothetical reasonable official would have known that the defendant's conduct violated the plaintiff's rights. Courts conducting this analysis apply the law that was in force at the time of the alleged violation, not the law in effect when the court considers the case. Fraternal Order of Police. Tyree Nichols. 5 officers in Memphis, Tennessee. Derek Chauvin. George Floyd. Sandra Bland. Eric Garner. Do we need to go on? As Edward Allen said before, we're tired. We're tired. This is happening too often, and it's the same. We're watching the same movie. It's just different actors. Same movie, different actors. The only consistent thing is that we get the movie after the actors have been rewarded or admonished. But the antagonists in this movie that we continue to watch is police officers. And when I say police officers, people can sit back and say, well, not all police officers are bad. Well, let me put it to you like this. All police officers may not be bad, but all police officers should have the integrity to stand up against the ones that they know are bad. See that code blue, that blue code or whatever they use, that you don't tell on a fellow police officer he does something wrong and all that. If you're a police officer and you know that someone's doing something wrong and you stand by and let it happen, you're just as guilty. You're a bad police officer as well. It's just like in life. We always hear people say, see something, say something. I remember when I was a young man in the military, they used to tell us, if you know somebody that's doing something illegal or somebody smoking dope and you know about it, you don't say anything, you can be held accountable too. True. And it's the same thing with the police department when they're out here doing this illegal stuff, planting drugs or beating people up on the streets or doing all the anything you can think of that a police officer may do that is illegal or go against what oath they took. If you're not holding people accountable to that as a fellow police officer, then you're a bad police officer as well. There's no gray line in there. And these 5 officers, all 5, to include those who were standing around watching for what they said was in the video, should be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Even the ones who stood and watched should be held as accessories to murder. Because if it was a normal, everyday citizen, and I just happened to be with someone who committed a murder and I didn't do anything, they would draw me in as an accessory because I didn't do anything to help the person that was being murdered. Why should these other police officers and the EMTs be any different than I would be held accountable if I was standing there watching someone be murdered? That's where that fraternal order of police comes in. Them, the NRA, which is why we continue having these school shootings. The NRA has too much power over our legislation. Fraternal Order of Police has too much power over our legislation. There's a whole list we can go down about this. But in this case, senseless murder of a young man who I would say, don't know him, I would say he had a bright future. Who enjoyed skateboarding and watching the sunset. but that's not the image that we're getting. That's not what we're being told. My brother, the kingdom of heaven suffers violence, but the violence take it by force. Sad, y'all. Sad. Let's go on and get into this. Mind, body, and soul, mind, body, and soul to the year 2023. This year, it's about being a better you. It's about not becoming or not being better you, but just being you, becoming who you are for you, not for everybody else around you. And today's quote, I don't know who said it. I just found it. It's something that fits in because I had some conversations this week that made me really think about this. And it says, asking for help is not a weakness. Asking for help is not a weakness. I bring this up because, last week we talked about health with going to get your exams and get your cancer screenings and all the health problems you may be having. And rather than putting them off, go see somebody and stop putting your health off because you may be taking care of somebody, all those things included. But I want to bring this up today because asking for help is not a weakness. I'm mainly talking to our men, but women are susceptible to this as well. When you're dealing with something, when you're going through something, when you're struggling with something, it doesn't make you weak to ask someone for help. It doesn't make you weak to talk to somebody about what you may be struggling with. And I know there's a lot of hesitation in what we decide to tell people. There's a lot of hesitation in what we want to reveal about ourselves. There's a lot of hesitation becoming vulnerable to certain people because we don't know how they're going to take it and they may flip it on us to use it against us. I'm not telling you to go out here and talk to anybody and everybody about anything whatsoever. But what I am telling you is that if you get to the point where you need help, find somebody that you can talk to. Find somebody that you can confide in. Go see somebody, a therapist, a mental health person. Go talk to someone. Do not suffer in silence about something that someone can help you along the way with. We get so caught up in the fact that we don't want to tell people what's going on with us, as I mentioned, because we're worried about them flipping it on us or using it against us later on, or any of the type of stereotypes we may think about. But what you had to break down is look at it this way. While you're suffering in silence about something that you may be dealing with, there are many people out there who are willing to listen. There are many people out there who are willing to help. You just haven't opened your mouth to ask for the help. You just haven't let down your guard to realize that there are people out here willing to help you without using what you're bringing to them against you. Everybody is not your enemy. Everybody does not have your worst interests at hand. Everybody doesn't have your best interests at hand, but you have to choose wisely. But make sure you choose. We see too many people leave this earth who are suffering with something that they could have went and talked to somebody. We have this machismo, as they say, as men, where when something happens or something's going on with it, when we're struggling with something, we don't want to be vulnerable enough to break down and cry. We don't want someone to see us cry because it shows a sign of weakness. No, it shows that you're human. It shows that you have emotion. It shows that there's something going on in your life that you feel so strongly about that you're struggling with that you got to break down and let it out. But the biggest thing you have to remember, the biggest thing, if you can't go talk to anybody else, Go down on your knees. Talk to God. Let it out. If you got to scream, scream. If you got to punch something, don't punch nobody. Find your punching bag. But go down on your knees if you need to. If you feel uncomfortable talking to someone in the flesh, talk to God. Talk to somebody in your family that may have passed on that you miss. You'll get a sign. But you have to be vulnerable enough to do it. Nothing is solved in silence. Nothing can be solved without addressing it. You have to be vulnerable enough to understand and recognize that this is an issue with me. And if I don't take care of it now, it's going to become something bigger. And it's going to start affecting me, as well as my family, as well as my job, as well as my overall being, to the point of when I get to the point where I can't figure a way out of this because I'm trying to do it by myself. Sometimes people's last resort is to end it. Not to go talk to somebody, not to find some help, but they don't eliminate the problem, they eliminate themselves. Mental health, talking to somebody through therapy, finding someone you can confide in, talk to God. We all need an outlet. We all need a listening ear. Sometime. Everybody smiling ain't happy. And everybody happy ain't smiling. Find your center, find your peace, and find that ear that you can lean on. God is in control. You hear me say it all the time. God is in control and he ain't left you yet. He has not brought you this far to leave you now. Lean on him. I heard this song the other day by what was his name? Williams. Not the Williams brothers. I can't remember his name right now. He passed away not too long ago. But he said, I learned to lean and depend on Jesus. While I was out there searching, I went to a pastor and he said, all you had to do while you was running from here and there was get down on your knees and pray. That's all I had to do, y'all. Take that. Luke, what is his name? Oh, I cannot remember his name. I'm sorry, y'all. But he said, I learned to lean and depend on Jesus. Take that with you today. Asking for help is not a weakness. If anything, it's a strength. And it's the strength to know that you can't do this by yourself. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. I appreciate everybody tuning in today. I appreciate y'all for continued support. Keep an eye on this case. Like I said, if you watch the video, hey, I'm praying for you because it's going to run through your mind. That's why I haven't watched it, because I still can remember the George Floyd video running through my mind. And I haven't watched that since the first time and the only time I watched it. Keep Tyre Nichols' family in your prayers and know that God is in control. Tyre Nichols is gone here for a reason that we may not understand. The situation is what we're concentrating on. Why the situation and why God chose him at that time, we will probably never understand. But we have to know that there's a reason behind it. May not show itself right now, but we'll see it in time. Appreciate y'all tuning in. The guest I was going to have on today, I told you I was going to have a guy that used to be a DEA agent and everything. He had some personal things come up, so I'm going to have him on soon. We're going to rehash some of this, some other things that are going on with the justice system and police reform and things like that. But we're going to talk about these things and we're going to continue. But I appreciate everybody tuning in. As I always say before I sign off, love yourself, love one another, keep your head up, and most definitely keep your faith in God. I'll see y'all again next week, and I appreciate y'all. I love y'all, and I'm out. Where's it at? Peace.